The Half-Life 2 SMG fires a grenade launcher out of a barrel that is way too small for a grenade. And it never has to reload grenades, implying there are multiple grenades stored in there somewhere. Why is it like this? Well, because the original design for the fully automatic in Half-Life 2 was based off the OICW. However, Half-Life 2 was being developed in the early 2000s around the same time the H&K MP7 was being developed, which is why the Half-Life 2 MP7 looks a lot more like the prototype. At some point, Valve axed the OICW and then put the grenade launcher on the MP7. In fact, the beta SMG in Half-Life 2 looks a lot more like the MP7 prototype, which was just called the PDW at the time, and then Valve made changes to it to make it look more futuristic, which is why the MP7 in Half-Life 2 looks like it comes from an alternate dimension. There was also an MP5K, so at one point in Half-Life 2's development cycle, there was an MP5, an MP7, an OICW, an AK-47, and a ton of other guns. There were a lot of redundant guns, so they just kind of got fused into a couple to make sense. I know if I don't mention this here, a lot of people are going to be like, well, actually, it's like, no, nothing I said was really wrong. It's just there's more information you can know. Half-Life 2 had a very interesting development cycle. But the main point there is that all of the weapons exist for a purpose within the gameplay combat loop, and not really for a purpose of being realistic. Adding a grenade launcher to the SMG, even if it doesn't make any sense whatsoever, makes the game more fun. Ultimately, this is the most important goal of a video game. It doesn't really matter if the guns are realistic or make sense, as long as the game is fun and it adds to the game. This little funny quirk of the MP7 also didn't take anyone out of the game, considering Half-Life 2 is one of the most immersive first-person shooters of all time. So clearly, Valve knew what they were doing. Hey everyone, Jarek here. I pretend to be a dragon on the internet, and you guys really seem to like the last video I made like this. So I'm going to make it a regular thing I do, rotating every other week. Next week will be a regular review type video, and then I'll make another one of these. Huge thanks to everyone that watched last week's video and linked it around and shared it to everyone. If you guys like them, and they keep getting views, I'll keep making them. Also, huge thanks to my YouTube members. They get to see my videos early, and I keep it pretty cheap if you wish to join them. Speaking of last week's video, I got quite a few comments from people theorizing that the Half-Life SPAS is actually firing 2 shots in rapid succession in semi-automatic, then turn back to pump action. 2 things point against this. The first one is that Gordon pumps it after firing those 2 shots, so either he's wasting his shell, or that's just not what's happening. But the second thing is way more damning to that theory. The tutorial hint that pops up on screen when you get the shotgun in Half-Life 2 literally says fire both barrels. So yes, the SPAS 12 in Half-Life fires 2 shots at once out of 2 barrels despite only having 1. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because the game is more fun for it. Also yes, it's SPAS 12, not SPAS 12. You can argue about that in the comments, but I will forever call it a SPAS 12. I've said many times that a game having realistic guns is not the determining factor of whether or not that game is going to be good or fun. But something that is rather important that is attached to the guns is how satisfying those guns are. I believe it adds a lot to a first-person shooter if the guns are loud and punchy and the reloading animations sound like they should. Basically, these sounds and animations should line up with how useful that gun is in that game. But something so many games get wrong are the sound effects when you're reloading weapons. Say you've completely emptied the mag in your pistol and the slide is locked back. Or you've completely emptied the magazine in your AR and the bolt is locked back. So many games will make it so that you reload, you hit the slide release, and it makes this little plasticky click sound. No, make it loud! That's a big piece of metal and there's springs behind it. It should be satisfying. Much better. While we're on the topic of the Black Ops 2 B23R, a common misconception is that this is supposed to be a futuristic version of the M93R, but it's actually modeled after an airsoft gun. The WE Silver Dragon is a split slide version of a high kappa, which is based off of 2011. I used to sell these things back in the day, so I immediately noticed what this was based off of. I actually love that they took this design because it looks really cool. This was one of the things that sold better than anything else, and I actually love that they took this design because it looks really cool and it fits the semi-futuristic vibe that Black Ops 2 was supposed to have. Well, futuristic at the time, considering Black Ops 2 was supposed to take place in 2025. Sticking with the M93R, I have a huge pet peeve that a lot of games do with this gun, and that's that the M93R is rarely actually the M93R. Usually they just take the model of the M9, slap a foregrip on it, make a 3-run burst, and call it an M93R. One problem with doing that is that the M93R doesn't look like an M9. I mean, it does, obviously, but it has a lot more sharper edges and it's distinct in its design than a regular M9. I think it looks way cooler. Does this actually change the gameplay in any significant way? No, this really does not matter. The gun is 3-round burst and functions totally differently than a regular M9, but the attention to detail is cool, and also, again, I just think the M9 3R looks really cool, whereas the basic M9 just looks like a boring semi-auto to me. Call of Juarez Gunslinger is a fantastic Old West action first-person shooter. This is not a realistic game, this is the focus on action and telling over-the-top stories. I mean, that's literally part of the game's story. But for the most part, these guns are fairly accurate, with the exception of this lever action. This one is confusing to me because you can see the loading gate, like right there, so the animation goof is a little funny. But hey, I'll make an exception for this one. This game has really satisfying feeling guns. It's super stylistic. Every time you shoot someone, it almost goes slow-mo with the blood splatter out. That sounds so bad when I say it out loud. I mean, hell, this game is not trying to be realistic. It has an upgrade where you can dual-wield shotguns, and then another upgrade that makes it so that you never have to reload during bullet time.
Holy shit.
The game is great. The bottom line, game is fantastic. Go play it. Speaking of stylistic, Mullet Madjack. This game was designed to look like animes you'd find in the 90s. While I myself am really not a big fan of anime, I find most modern anime rather annoying, the 90s had some really good anime. A lot of it had super cool designs. Cowboy Bebop will forever be one of my favorite series. And no matter who you are, you can't tell me Akira doesn't look amazing. That is what this game was based off of, and it just looks so good. But keeping with the anime vibes, it's very over the top, especially the weapons. You start with a revolver, then you get an upgrade that turns it into a belt-fed revolver. Those do exist, but you never have to reload this one. It's awesome. But then you get the shotgun. This is a break action, lever action shotgun that you reload like this. I have zero idea how this works. I don't even care. I love this game. It fits perfectly with what this game wants to do. And this is what I mean by realistic guns do not determine whether a game is fun or not. Obviously, the end goal of this game is not to be realistic, so you should lean into that, and the game is more fun for it. As long as the guns are still satisfying and punchy and loud, and they certainly are in this game. This next gun is cursed in an extremely different way. And I use the word gun very loosely here. That's the finger gun from Vertigo 2. The reloading animation for this weapon is so cursed that every single one of my friends have physically cringed the first time they saw it.
Is this really fucking ammo? Oh! I'm not looking at it every time I reload, by the way. Like that shit.
I hate that little thumb wiggle. Why did you look directly at it?
Does it hurt me every time I do that?
You are putting a needle in your finger.
As a reminder, this is a VR game. You are physically miming this reload. The extra level of immersion makes this very unpleasant. This whole area is just hilarious to me because this is actually a secret weapon. You could miss this whole like horror mannequin vibe that seems very Condemned inspired. There's no reason for this to exist other than the dev just wanted to put it in the game. Alright, let's swap back to some normalcy here and talk about Rainbow Six Vegas. Rainbow Six Vegas is a tactical shooter, so getting guns realistic is a bit more important here, and for the most part, they've nailed it. Guns sound loud, they kill fast, and reloading animations are accurate. I said they were accurate, not pretty. This game looks pretty outdated on launch graphically. But there's one reloading animation that doesn't make much sense, and that's the AK. On empty, it just has a bolt catch, and then you just kind of push the bolt forward. Not really sure how they got this one wrong. It's a little weird considering it's Rainbow Six, but whatever. There's a much bigger error in this game that actually does mess with the gameplay though, and that's of the XM26 shotgun. Yep, it's fully automatic for some reason. The XM26 should be a manual pull bolt action shotgun. And the reason this actually messes with the gameplay is because it has the fastest rate of fire out of any of the shotguns in the game. Considering Vegas is supposed to be a slower paced game where positioning matters, every other pump action is extremely slow. The main character really takes his time looking at the gun to pump it. So you have no reason to use anything other than the XM26. It's by far the best shotgun in the game. Now, in Rainbow Six Vegas 2, they attempted to fix this by slowing the rate of fire down. This did balance it in, especially since the other pump actions now pump faster, but it still leaves me confused. Why would you not just replace it for a semi-automatic shotgun, like an actual semi-auto design? The XM26 also has the ability to become an underbarrel mag-fed shotgun, so you could have just made that an attachment, add something genuinely new to the game, balance it in, and add some more realism for a tactical shooter. Oh wait, Rainbow Six Siege did exactly that! And it's still automatic! Semi-automatic, but still, Ubisoft, what are we doing? Next, I'm jumping back into VR. Now, VR has totally different rules about how you should handle weapons. When it comes to a regular flat-screen game, reloading animations mean way less. You press one button and an animation plays out in front of you where you can spend your time doing whatever else you need to do. Get away from the enemies, focus on something else. I oftentimes say that the main character in a first-person shooter is not actually the main character, but instead the gun you were holding in your hands, because that dictates how you approach the combat loop and how you interact with the world. This is why Half-Life 2 was so phenomenal when it came out. A brand new physics engine that was leagues ahead of anything else, and a gravity gun that actually let you interact with the world. For the first time, the main character was Gordon Freeman, not the gun he was holding. Now take that idea and just apply it to the entirety of everything, and that's VR in a nutshell. And since VR feels very real, this immersion means way more. This is the part that's really hard to explain to people that have never tried VR. When you're standing on a 10-story building in VR and you look down, that feeling in your stomach that you're about to fall still happens. Like, it feels real. So if games don't have realistic reloads, it really takes you out of the moment, because you keep trying to do animations that you can't do. Case in point, Black Trail. This game is so bad. It's one of the worst games I've ever played in my life. It feels like a launch title for the Vive back in 2016, except it came out last year. This game's so bad it gave my index controller stick drift because it wasn't toggle sprint, it was push in on the analog stick permanently, and those controllers are not cheap to replace. Anyway, guns. Let me talk about a good example as to what I mean with this game and why it feels outdated. And then there's the reloading, which is terrible. It's not immersive at all. You don't open the loading gate and then pull out bullets from a pouch or anything like that. You just put your left hand up next to the gun, mash the A button, which forces you to remove your hand from the analog stick you are using to move. Not only is this not a satisfying way to reload your gun, but it also will get you killed. I can somewhat understand what they were trying to do, because manually reloading every single cartridge is going to be difficult when you have so many enemies running at you, so maybe they did it for gameplay reasons. But then I look at what else they did, and yeah, that's not the reason they did this. For example, you have two hands in VR. I mean, I can move my hands, I can reload, I can do things. So you would think fanning a revolver would just be fanning a revolver. But no! In order to fan a revolver in this game, you hold your left hand over the revolver and hold down the trigger, and it fans it for you. This is VR, what is this shit? I mean, this is no different than just saying, hold down right click to fan revolver. That's so lame. There needs to be a delicate balance between gameplay mechanics and gun realism when it comes to certain animations and reloads and what's expected of the player. And this does everything in the worst way possible. The only way you can get worse is if the game just does the old arcade thing of hold gun out of frame and it reloads for you, which is exactly what Hubris did. No, dumb, let me reload. Valve very quickly figured out manual reloading is basically a requirement in VR. You see, Half-Life Alyx was supposed to be an easy first-time player game. So at first they didn't actually have any reloading animations, but every playtester said that they should have reloading. They kept trying to reload, so Valve added reloads. I'll talk about one more gun that blends the line of realism and making no sense but nobody actually cares. That's the Shambler from Metro. Could this shotgun physically exist? Yeah, definitely. It's very weird. It's basically an inside-out revolver shotgun with a strange toggle lock bolt. The revolver portion thing rotating on its own kind of doesn't make sense, but there are ways you could definitely make that work. Wind it up beforehand, for example. But there are two reasons why I bring up this shotgun in particular. The first one is, while talking about VR, I just wanted to mention how fun it is to reload this shotgun in VR. That is one of the best things about VR, the full immersion of physically being able to touch things and manipulate things the way you want to. It's just satisfying. But the other thing I wanted to mention is that Metro is a perfect example of, as long as the thing in your game fits the art style and everything looks coherent, people aren't going to question it, even if it doesn't make sense. It's the apocalypse. Guns are gonna look weird and cobbled together. Will all the designs be logical or all the designs be really cool? No, but as long as they look like they fit that world, people aren't going to care. I would argue the designs being weird and illogical make the game better, makes the world and universe seem more believable. So hey, there are a few more weapons that I wanted to talk about. There are so many more I could talk about. So again, I'll be back for more of these as long as they keep getting views, because they do require me to stop making my normal content. But they're fun to make and people seem to enjoy them. So if you want to see more, link them around. If you want to see more, also consider subscribing right here, or checking out the other videos like this, or checking out maybe my reviews that I also put a lot of time into, or I stream all the time on Twitch. I got my Twitch up there. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time.